Welcome to Becoming Spiritual, a podcast about the magic that surrounds us and has always been a part of us. I'm your host, Heather Dolan, a passionate seeker dedicated to bringing together beautiful humans who are doing amazing things in this world. Together, we will explore healing modalities and practical spiritual practices that can enrich your everyday life. We will also hear stories of awakenings, many from people in the corporate world who have broken out of the spiritual closet. Wherever you are in your journey, know you have found a community of open-hearted individuals committed to making themselves and our world a better place. Welcome home. Hello, and welcome to Becoming Spiritual. I'm your host, Heather Dolan, and I am joined by my spiritual sidekick, magical friend, and producer, Natalie Grace.
Hi, Heather.
Hello. And we are both very excited to have our friend, Kendra Sheehan, here on the podcast. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
We are very excited for this conversation. Let me introduce Kendra, and I will have her also share a little bit about herself, but I would like to just share a little bit about her. So Kendra is the co-founder of Ascending Hearts Wellness Center located in Bristol, Rhode Island. She is a sound healing practitioner and Usui and shamanic Reiki master practitioner. At Ascending Hearts Wellness, Kendra offers a variety of individual and group sound healing and Reiki sessions and gatherings and is passionate about building a sense of community for those who join their events. Kendra is also a director of global talent management at a large engineering and manufacturing company where she leads leadership development programs, training and development, performance management, and employee engagement. So we shared that last part about Kendra because it's going to be pertinent to our conversation today. As you will see a common theme throughout our episodes here on Becoming Spiritual about how we can manage and really use our spirituality as a superpower at work. And so I'm excited to dive into that in a little bit. But first, I would love for you to share a little bit more to give us some additional context about you, and definitely want to hear more about the Wellness Center. But first, maybe just how did you get into sound healing? Because that's going to be the main focus of our conversation today.
Yeah, it's probably not what you would expect, I would say. So my story actually started back in 2021. I was not spiritual at all before then. I was never religious. I never had any spiritual practices. And, things were really weird with the world at that time. And during that time frame, my dad actually at one point had reached out to me and was talking to me about how he had this Akashic Records reading. And he was telling me all about how, it describes your soul group and your mission and maybe your galactic origin. And at the time, this really felt very strange to me. I'm not going to lie. It felt like, what is he talking about? I had never heard of it.
And you probably never heard of it.
No,
I heard the...
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think and let's pause there because I don't know if we've mentioned the Akashic Records yet, or did we actually, maybe with our last episode?
Yes, we did, but we didn't go into detail about it. So now's a good time to explain.
Okay. So who wants to take the floor on explaining what the Akashic Records are, which we will have a full episode on the Akashic Records, but just kind of an overview of what it is.
I feel like you two are probably more apt to explain it than me, but
Natalie's way better at explaining spiritual concepts. So I'm going to give you the mic.
I'll have a go, but I've been familiar with this concept for a really long time, so I kind of forget the beginner mindset to it. I drop it all the time in my tarot thinking people know what the Akashic Records is, and they're just like, what are you talking about? So there's kind of two ways to think about it. The first way is if we take the term Akasha, which some people might be familiar with, which is a Vedic term. And then on the other hand, we've got this concept of the Hall of Records, which is a concept. It's a place where every single piece of information, of data is stored about every single human, every single animal, every single tree, every single thing, every single building, every single thought, every single idea, every single feeling, like every single memory. There's a record of all of this, and it's stored in this Hall of Records. And the Akashic Records is the book that each and every one of us has that we can go and consult in this Hall of Records, that tells us insight about ourselves and our lives, and it has answers to everything. So when I started learning to read the Akashic Records for myself, so it's a process you go through to access this information, I wasn't just asking about me and my, like, you know, soul mission and stuff, which is incredibly powerful. I was also going there to ask about, like, what are rainbows? Why do we see them? You know, why are the pyramids here? What wisdom do they hold? So, like, you can find out so much information. I've probably gone really deep there, and I think we'll have a whole episode dedicated to the Akashic Records. But just to give you an idea, like, usually we'll hear someone talk about this, like, what the Akashic Records, and we get like this sense of, oh, this sounds really intriguing to me. I've got to find out more.
Yeah.
And then we'll find a reader and they'll do a reading for us, and it could tell us past lives. It can tell us information really pertinent to now. It can tell us about, the galactic origins even. There's so much information, and different readers have different kind of specialties around what information they give. But that's sort of my basic deep introduction to the Akashic Records. I'd love to hear, like, what you guys think of that, and if you've got anything
that was
extra
your
to
basic,
add.
which to me, I was like, yes, mine would have been probably 30 seconds of, it's this spiritual library that holds all of our information, and we can tap into masters who provide information through the records. When, you know, anyone can learn to do it. It's your right to have access to your information. And and there's all kinds of spiritual good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So this
so
is
much
why
better.
Natalie is my spiritual sidekick, because I knew you'd have an awesome explanation for that. Okay, so now we can move on, because we know what that is. So,
perfect. So you can imagine how going from not spiritual at all to hearing about this Akashic Records concept was like so out of left field for me. But as he was explaining what he learned from his own reading, it just sounded so fascinating and really, really interesting to me. And he was kind of like, well, you know, if you'd be interested in getting a reading yourself, I'd be happy to pay for it. So I was like, you know, what do I have to lose, right? So the version of the reading that I did was actually kind of a report style where you would, you know, send questions and they would send it back. And that just sparked my interest. And I started listening to, like, all these different podcasts and reading all these articles and learning
that
as
was your
much as
gateway.
I could. Yeah, about the Akashic Records. And then I ended up doing another session with someone named Lucia Espiga, which is kind of how the three of us met. And during that reading, she was explaining how, you know, my soul works on all of these DNA projects, and how I've worked on like 500 DNA projects here on Earth, you know, trying to figure out how our souls can not be so, I'm trying to think of the word she used, not so influenced, I guess, by negative energy. And I'm probably not explaining it well, but anyways, this idea of working on DNA projects came up during the reading. And she was saying how if I started to learn about DNA and kind of take interest in DNA here in this incarnation, how it could help the soul work that I'm doing. And I have to tell you, that also felt so out of the blue, because I was like, I'm in an HR talent, like, training function. Like, I'm not, like, DNA does not interest me. Am I supposed to become, like, a scientist now? Like, what? It just also felt very, like, out of the blue. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to go along with it.
Roll
Let
with
me
it.
just, like, Google DNA.
Yeah.
You know? So that kind of took me down the spiritual aspect of DNA and how, you know, energy can influence our DNA. And that's when I actually learned about the frequency 528 hertz, which is a healing frequency that can help repair DNA. So I kind of, this is like a really long-winded answer to say, like, I fell down this rabbit hole of DNA to then this sound healing frequency. And so I was like, well, that sounds cool. And I had been to a couple of sound baths before. And so I was like, let me take a class. Let me take a class about sound healing. And it just really resonated, not to be like making a punny joke, but yeah, I was like, all right. So I took a year-long, actually a year-long tuning forks certification course where I learned how to do sound healing one-on-one with individuals with different frequencies. And it kind of just snowballed from there. So it was never like a conscious, like, oh, I want to be a sound healer, let me study that. It was really through this
just an interest.
Yeah.
So
like progression, I guess.
So talk to us a little bit about frequencies and what that means. So for someone who is like, I have no idea what 528 hertz means. Is that like a radio station? Or so what does that mean? And what sound healing entails when you talk about frequency?
Yeah, so we're all familiar with, like, on a piano, there's different notes, right? And different notes make different sounds. The frequencies are sort of like the sound waves, and how many of those. So the higher the frequency number, the higher the pitch sounds, where the lower the frequency, it sounds lower. We're all actually really familiar with frequencies. So you think about like ultrasounds and x-rays. These are all using frequencies, but they're not things that we necessarily hear. So when we work with sound healing, it's within the audible range of those frequencies. And it's so fascinating. There's so many studies right now about using audible frequencies or even inaudible frequencies to heal things like cancer cells and blast cancer, like tumors and things like that. It's pretty wild when you start researching it. So different frequencies have different effects. So some of the higher frequencies are associated with, some of the higher chakras, like our, maybe I don't want to go down to all these different rabbit holes, but each frequency is really targeted to specific healing outcomes, if you will.
So for example, so when you said the 528, where does that kind of sit? Is that like a general frequency? And then what would you do with that if, for instance, you don't have someone that you can go to that would attune you to these frequencies for healing? What's something
that's a
people
great question.
can do?
Yeah. So actually, even just a simple search on YouTube, if you searched like 528 hertz frequency, people have created like hour-long sound baths using these frequencies. So that's one easy way that someone could just, access these frequencies on their own without needing to go to a sound healer. Like I said, I did a tuning fork course, so that's what I like to work with is tuning forks, which are really, again, they're not super expensive. They're something that you can buy on Amazon. And just have, a tuning fork that you comb your body with this frequency. And then there's also devices. People may have heard of the Healy frequency healing device.
We got our Healys.
We both have our Healys.
We both went down the Healy rabbit hole. So yes. Yep.
Yeah. Which uses frequencies that you don't hear. It's kind of just emitting the frequency in the air and surrounding your energy field around your body.
Natalie, go ahead.
So to follow on from Heather's question, what was so magical about 528 hertz? Because you said that was one of the gateways. You discovered that and you're like, wait a minute, like I got to learn more. So what was so magical? Did you heal
something?
Well, so the 528 is targeted towards DNA healing. So I may not have even said that. So yeah, that's kind of what even led me into frequencies was this like, oh, you can heal DNA from using frequencies? That's wild. And
that's your link to that Akashic Records reading. With the DNA. Okay.
Yeah. Which it's like, how did I get there? I don't know. But yeah, there are these Gregorian chants that were used in ancient times, and they measured these chants, and they all tie back to 3, 6, or 9. the specific frequencies that are associated with the Gregorian chants. So they found that these different chants that the monks were doing had these different healing outcomes. I get really nerded out about this stuff, but
I love it.
but
That's why
520,
we're
it's like a
talking about it.
common one that a lot of people work with. I would say it's probably like the most familiar that people know of.
And I also know, so when you're listening to frequencies, say for instance on YouTube, because there's definitely a difference in quality, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So how do you discern if someone were to, listen to this episode and then say, oh, I want to go find some free frequencies? How do you decide what's a good one versus maybe a not so good one? And then this is something where people should be wearing headphones, right? To have it
You
going
don't
right into
necessarily
your
have
ears.
to. Yeah,
Okay.
if you're doing something like binaural beats, which is a
Oh,
different
okay.
type of like sound healing, it would be two different frequencies that are like within 10 hertz of each other. You would definitely want to wear headphones because that creates that binaural beat, which is like it's just enough difference between the two that it creates this really like healing, wild like effect in your brain. And
That's
you
the
want to use
balancing, right?
headphones.
Binaural.
Yeah, you
Yep.
want to use
Okay.
headphones because it's like it has to be independent, like you're hearing each one independently. But if you're just listening to like a general frequency or like a sound bath type recording, then you wouldn't necessarily need to use headphones. You know what? Obviously, there's tons of free content out there, for sound healing and frequencies, but I definitely recommend doing things in person if you can. There's just really something so impactful about like the vibrations of the instruments in person that you really can't replicate through headphones or through, online recordings. So that's one of the things I love about doing like group events and having people come to the space that I have in Bristol is that just the energy of people being together and the energy of the instruments in the room, it's like it just adds such an amazing layer to the healing effects that it's hard to replicate on your own just listening to, a recording. So
what's something, because I have actually never been to a sound bath. And I think I had shared this with
oh,
you.
you need to
Yeah,
go.
I
Yeah.
know. I said I need to come up to Rhode Island. I need to get up there so I can come to the center and experience that. So I've never, experienced that other than I've been around sound bowls and not so much for like a full sound bath where you're laying there relaxing and letting kind of all the sounds wash over you and all those things. I've been around them where people have played them and you've kind of felt the frequency, but it usually was in tandem or part of like an event or something. So it was just a small couple of minute thing. But I definitely understand what you're saying in terms of the power of it, because sometimes it just does something as it's like coming into your body and whatnot. But can you like share a little bit for someone who's never been to one like me of
Yeah.
what kind of the experience is like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, similar to anything else, each practitioner is so different. Like,
Yeah.
I've been to so many sound baths, and each person does things a little differently. Maybe they specialize in certain instruments that someone else doesn't use. So it's kind of fun to try different practitioners and different styles. But I would say the frosted crystal bowls are pretty common for people to use, or Tibetan bowls during sound baths. And then typically people would also play like chimes and drums. You might have things like rain sticks or Native American flute. But, talking about frequencies, for example, all of my bowls are in a 432 hertz frequency, which is another really beautiful healing frequency that's like connects you with the universe and connects you with just the energies of the cosmos, and just a really like a grounding, beautiful frequency. Whereas like the normal music that we listen to on the radio is 440 hertz. So there's theories that they like maybe did that on purpose to make the music that we hear on the radio not as healing as it could be. But I won't go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, sound baths are just, it can be, again, there's so many different instruments you can play, but people will just lay on their backs and relax. There may be some sort of like meditative component to it where you're taken through a guided journey during the sound bath. And they're typically, around an hour, give or take. A lot of people say they have a hard time relaxing. So in the first, 10, 15 minutes, some people might just even be trying to get into a state of relaxation. And then as it goes on, their brain gets more and more entrained down into a wavelength that's closer to almost like in between sleeping and awake. And it's this beautiful space that your brain sits in where you can let go of things that you're holding on to. You can maybe have some creative ideas. You can find peace and relaxation. It's kind of like whatever your body needs in that moment, you can find it in that state. Some people fall asleep, which is okay. I always say the healing happens just the same.
Yeah. Still taking in the frequencies.
Yes, they're adding their own, maybe with a little snoring, but that's okay. It happens. There's always one.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's kind of a typical, what you'd expect from the typical sound bath.
Sign me up.
So you mentioned tuning forks, and you've also mentioned bowls, the crystal bowls and the Tibetan bowls. I think a lot of us now are familiar with the idea of a sound bath where people go and lay down and it's about this relaxation, as you described, and opening ourselves up to healing and receiving those frequencies. But what's other ways you can access this, like one-on-one? And what's the difference between seeing you for tuning forks versus a sound bath session in a group?
Oh, that's a great question, because I think a lot of people assume it's the same, but you're just by yourself. It's actually a very different experience. So kind of explain the sound bath idea of all the different instruments, and you're laying and you're in a group. One-on-one sessions are very targeted to an individual's needs and what their intentions are for the session. And I actually don't really work at all with tuning forks and sound baths, but I almost exclusively work with tuning forks in one-on-one sessions. And the difference is that for me, I'm using the tuning forks to, for example, there's a frequency, the 174 hertz, that I'm like combing over someone's body and I'm listening to hear, are there areas of depleted energy, excess energy, stuck energy, and I can hear the differences in the sound as I'm combing over their energy field. And with that, I can either, pull energy away if there's too much there, or, bring energy in or frequencies in if it's kind of depleted in that area. I work with the chakras, again, balancing them. I can also work with tuning forks that are weighted, so that it's actually more of a vibrational energy healing or frequency healing, where the vibration of the tuning fork is creating a healing effect. For example, I have people who deal with pain in certain areas, and the sensation of the vibration on the pain dissipates the pain away. So
like the difference would be when you're using the tuning forks without the weights, you're literally like attuning the body as if it's an instrument. And you're trying to match frequencies. But that's in like the energy field, like in the aura space, right?
Yeah.
And then with the weights, like you're using that physically on the body, like applying pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So for the sound part, it's like taking it from incoherent to coherent to where it sounds. I kind of describe it like, when you're a baby, you have this beautiful frequency that's like nice and uniform. And then we go through life and we're experiencing all of these challenges and grief and loss and, anger, and it becomes choppy. Our frequency becomes choppy. Through using the tuning forks, we can kind of clear that disturbance away to where we're like returning to this beautiful frequency that we started as this like young little innocent baby.
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of weird, but
No, so it's
all
like
need that.
creating that harmony.
Yeah, it's like harmony, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. And then there's different protocols where I can work with different sounds too. For example, like if someone's dealing with grief, I have a protocol that I work with for grief, for quality sleep, for grounding. So I have different protocols that I can work with for that specific person, depending on what they're trying to focus on.
So that's like what defines you as a sound healer, that you're doing that intrinsic healing work with the sounds and the frequencies versus someone creating beautiful soundscapes that is doing it more in a group setting.
And I think sometimes people come in and they're like, I'm just going to lay and hear this beautiful like melodies and whatever. And I'm like, no, we're here to do some work.
Love that.
But yeah.
And is that normally like an hour situation, or does it depend on what someone has to work? Because I've got to think at some point you're maxed out of like this session. You can't have this like 2 or 3 hour healing, because I mean that just seems like it would be too intense. So is it like average
it's
an hour?
An hour.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have 90-minute sessions where I'll do sound healing and Reiki together, which is a beautiful combination because one's focusing more on the sound and frequency and vibration, and then the Reiki is more of the energy healing. So together, it's a really nice combination. But yeah, typically an hour to 90 minutes. Much more than that. I'm sure someone would love to lay there longer, but I feel like you kind of hit a cap where you don't want to deal with too much all at one time. You want to let things kind of settle in and let the healing happen, and then maybe return for another session if there's more to work through.
That makes sense. Yeah. I met a healer who she worked, and I might have mentioned this to you, with sound bowls where she put them on the body. So she, as part of her massage practice, she would do massage and then she would put the sound bowls on the body. So I guess it's the vibration and the frequency of the sound bowls on people.
Yeah, I don't do that as much. I rely more with the tuning forks, but I have done it. It's just not something I do frequently. Yeah. So again, it's like every practitioner does things a little different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendra, have you seen the people now that are making these beds, and it's like a hollow wooden box underneath the bed on top, and inside the box are bees? And so we're talking about frequency and vibration. There's so many bees that they're making a sound that's like audible buzzing, and they're doing their like vibrational flapping that creates this like incredible frequency underneath you. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I'm laughing because I have such an irrational fear of bees that I would never, I would never do that, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
In theory, it sounds cool.
Yeah. I need to get over this. It's very irrational. Like, people make fun of me and my reactions. Like, it's not even okay.
Did you watch My Girl when you were a kid? Because that might have something to do with
it. I can't.
You need to ask your records.
I did actually.
Did you?
Oh, and you didn't get an answer?
Yeah, no, actually the answer was it's not stemming from anything like past life or anything like that.
To death or
and that I need to remember that in the reactions that I'm having, I'm allowing something else to control me. So, thinking about it in a different way of like not letting something else have that much like power over my reactions. And so it was like not what I was expecting to hear. I was thinking some traumatic experience would come up, and that was not the case at all. So I did ask.
So Natalie, I'm guessing you've been to sound baths. Have you done sound baths too?
Yeah, I went to one on Friday night actually, which was great. I haven't even told you that, Heather. It was really awesome. We did. I'm one of those people, it takes a little bit of time to like switch the brain off and get into the flow. And so it was like an immersive experience. So it was like 1 hour of yin yoga, and then a yoga nidra journey, and then a sound bath for like maybe 30 minutes, and then cacao to finish. It was really beautiful. But yeah, it is really interesting, the difference between the different practitioners, and like in Australia, we have people who bring in didgeridoos and,
cool.
Yeah, different instruments here, which is really fun. But it is cool, the difference between the very like celestial, atmospheric and the more shamanic, rhythmic, drumming kind of experiences. It's worth going to like lots of different ones.
For sure. Yeah, I usually do more of like an ethereal vibe. But I've been to other ones that are like very gong heavy or very drum heavy. And it's just, they're all different, right? It just creates a very different experience. And I myself like to go to different people's sound baths too, just to hear. Although sometimes now that I'm a sound healer myself, I have a hard time relaxing because I'm almost like, what are they doing? I want to like open my eyes and see like, oh, what instrument are they using? But
what was that?
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do you know what you're going to do? Do you plan it out or is it very intuitive? Because obviously you can't just decide I want 2 different sets of bowls with me and this, you've got to bring the rain stick or whatever the didgeridoo you're going to have on hand. So do you kind of make a plan? I'm guessing, hey, we're going to be working on something specific? Or
yeah, that's a good question. It's very intuitive for me. I'll pull out a bunch of instruments and then like as I'm feeling out the group and the vibe, and just kind of like how the night is going, I will just pull out what I feel like the group needs in that moment. And even when I'm playing the sound bowls, it's all very intuitive. I don't have like patterns I follow or anything like that. I just kind of go with the flow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, you know what? Everyone feels very on edge. I'm not going to do things that are like a lot of drumming that might just kind of create more anxiety. Or maybe I'm like, oh, they really need to release a lot of things. Maybe I will do some drumming in the beginning to kind of break some of that up. So yeah, I try to just tune into the group and see what I think would resonate best for them.
Well, you've sold me on it. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to go Google it when we hang up and see who's doing some kind of sound bath.
Yeah, it's wild too. Some of the people's experiences, some people will say, it was very relaxing and I feel very at peace. I've had other people who are like, I had the most wild vision, and they go through this whole like journey that they had in their minds of like they're basically on another planet. So it's pretty cool hearing some of the things that people can experience in this amount of time.
Yeah, wow. Natalie, what's been some of your experiences?
My most memorable one was the one when I fell asleep, because I don't usually do that. So it was like waking myself up with the snoring and being like, I can't believe I missed this. Because you don't want to be that person. Like, I'm just like, I want to feel it all. I haven't gone on any like wild visionary journeys like that. I think when I go in there, I'm just intrigued by all the different sounds and want to soak them all up in my body. So that's kind of what I'm focused on and my intention is. But I hosted a cacao ceremony with my beautiful sister Hadassah recently at a festival, and she used some incredible, beautiful indigenous instruments. She's from Bolivia. So yeah, she had some amazing flutes she was using, in her voice as well. Is that something, Kendra, that you find a lot of people use?
The voice. Yeah. It depends on the person. And I so wish I could be that person. And I just have the most horrible voice. And when people hear me say that, they're like, oh, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. I'm sure it's not that bad. Like, it's that bad. So so I don't use my voice, but I do like when other people do. I have heard feedback from some people that they find it distracting, actually. So again, it's one of those things where it's like different people like different things. It's so interesting. But I love working with cacao too. Shout out to my co-founder, Amy from Ascending Hearts. She is a cacao ceremonial guide. And so we partner together a lot with cacao and sound. And it's such a beautiful combination. I love it. Yeah.
So share a little bit about what that's like in terms of cacao, what it is, why that would kind of add to the experience for someone if they were going to go down this road.
Yeah, so cacao is a plant medicine that It's actually mostly grown kind of in South and Central America, and I think it's also grown a bit in Africa. And when you make it, you're making it typically into like a bar form, like a solid bar form, and you're not adding any extras. You're not adding sugar or anything like that to it. So a lot of people think of cacao as chocolate, but cacao is really like the fruit that's used to make chocolate. And it has so many amazing properties in it that help with all sorts of health benefits, but it's also just really like heart opening. And I don't know that it is an adaptogen, but I feel like it is because it just gives you what you need in that moment. So sometimes I'll drink cacao and I feel the need to cry, and I'll just cry like a good, happy, hearty cry. Or sometimes it makes me feel like giddy and I want to laugh. Or sometimes I just feel at peace and, like my heart's open. I love everyone. So it kind of just gives you what you need in the moment. And
so do you do that before,
opens your senses,
or do you do it after?
We usually like to do it before. We'll try to do it like early on in a ceremony so that it's like taking effects for the rest of the time together. So we'll start with that and then go into a meditation and sound bath typically.
And I feel like when people hear plant medicine, they're going to think, because there's so much talk about plant medicine. More, I think the mainstream that's kind of out there is, of course, like psychedelics and all of those things. So I think just to kind of put that at ease, if someone sees that, it's not in this like psychedelic realm where someone has to worry about like driving or, having,
It's very gentle. Yeah. It's a gentle plant medicine.
Yeah. And I know, Natalie, you use it because you use it a lot of times when you're on your lives doing readings for the collective. And that's something else I've never done. I know. I have so much to explore.
You do. We all do.
Scratching the surface.
It's super accessible as well. I mean, getting that incredible, beautiful ceremonial cacao is like the most powerful way to experience it when someone's made this beautiful, rich, thick, amazing potion from the cacao paste like you explained, Kendra. It's just so nice. But even just working with cacao from a powder, it's not going to taste the same, but you still can get the benefits. And yeah, so it's something we can all do for ourselves. But I do recommend if you want to treat yourself to get a block of what they call the paste and carve the cacao yourself and melt it in the pot and put your intentions in there. It's very beautiful. But yeah, I think, Kendra, you explained it so well. The cacao really does work with the heart opening, and I feel like that's like a vibrational or frequency portal almost where...
Totally.
Especially when you've got the bowls or the sounds going to calm the nervous system and change the brain waves, you can get into that state of heart-mind coherence much more easily, and that opens up for so much healing. It's beautiful.
You always explain things so well. That's exactly right.
I know. I told you. That's like, yeah, I had to have her. I had to have her here. All right, let's back up because I totally skipped over how we know each other. So, Kendra, so you had the journey of kind of this gateway coming to sound healing and then Reiki as well, which you practice through the Akashic Records, which happened to be your dad putting that kind of in front of you. And so what's so unique is Kendra and we met through, just like Natalie and I, through this Soul Tribe podcast group. Everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, that group again. People are going to go search for it, but it's
an amazing group.
Yeah.
We'll put the link in the show notes.
We'll put the link, for the group. Anyone can be a part of it. It was really interesting because I think one of the people in the group, one of the sisters, so there's two sisters, and I think I mentioned this before, but I had said, oh, it's interesting. Like you and Kendra have interesting, very similar journeys in terms of kind of what opened us up. And it was very similar from a timing perspective. Even just both of us kind of going down rabbit holes were very similar from that perspective. And both also in these corporate jobs, only a couple of hours from one another, but exploring these things. And it was really fun when all of us would share messages in this group and talk about all these different modalities. And I thought Kendra was like, I don't know, I thought she was super spiritual and knew all these things because she'd always jump in and share all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's obviously like really, really tapped in and knows all her stuff. Natalie was always one of those people as well. And come to find out, you just were like me,
Isn't
like you
that
were
so
this
funny? I know.
voracious like content. And I loved
Could not
how,
get enough
yeah,
content.
couldn't get enough. Yeah. And then someone would mention something and you're like, tell me more. And then
Yeah.
someone would add their expertise. And then all of a sudden it's like, check out this video. Yeah. Listen to this sound healing. People would post videos. Just so tremendous. So I just love that we all came together in this group and how we're all, you know, still on these journeys and exploring all these different paths and topics. And then even getting to connect to your dad because he was in the group and he's had some cool experiences that I've resonated with that have been similar to me too. So it's just, yeah, it's just so cool.
All divinely guided for sure.
All divinely guided. And then I even got to meet Kendra in person. So we had all these chats and Zooms, and I had to come up to Massachusetts and Rhode Island for work. And so we carved out time to meet. And the ironic thing is, you know, as I shared in my episode, I work with HR people in corporate, and that happens to be Kendra's, you know, quote unquote day job. And so, yeah, so we got to talk about her job and the work she's doing. And it's just so interesting how many things are really similar in terms of our backgrounds and having you know, kids who are similar in ages as well. So from that, I think that's a nice segue actually into, you know, one of the main kind of themes of this podcast around talking about how you operate. So you're out in the world, you have this beautiful center that you've co-founded now, which before that you still had a small office that you were renting to do Reiki and sound healing because it was just something you really wanted to do. And it was just part of your calling. So you were carving that out, even though you have this busy job. You have kids at home that you're managing and your relationship and all those things. And so maybe share a little bit about what that journey's been like for you, because, you know, you have the center. So obviously you're not hiding that you're doing, you know, this spiritual work and these practices. So I'm curious how that all went.
Yeah. So like I said, kind of 2021 is when a lot of this started coming into my reality. Like you said, I couldn't read enough. I couldn't listen to enough. I was taking a million courses. I just like, I was all consumed with learning about different spiritual concepts and galactic concepts and healing concepts. And I would say I went through a pretty rapid transformation personally, which is weird for people who maybe don't talk to you as often, or you know, you kind of check in with them and personally I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've changed so much, but how do you make that transition from like, here's who I was to here's who I am now?
Yeah, like, do you introduce yourself like, hi, I'm Kendra, and now I'm into all these cool things, and probably a lot of stuff we used to talk about, I actually don't want to talk about anymore. So.
Right. It's so, well, you say that because I feel like I did go from like, you know, there's so many surface level conversations to once I started really diving down this path, I felt like I just really craved like deep, interesting conversations where we're talking about these concepts and things that are important to me. And kind of the more surface level conversations aren't as fulfilling to me anymore. So I think that started to shift who I interacted with and who I spent time with, you know, the types of people I would, you know, follow on social media. And, you know, at work, it's like, you know, okay, I'm doing this Reiki certification and I'm doing this sound healing certification, but I wasn't really talking about those things at work. I was keeping it very surface level. And, you know, there's always that fear of like, people are going to think I'm so weird. They're not going to understand. And so I think there's this fear of like being seen and that they're going to judge you in some way. I guess one thing I've realized is that people are so focused on themselves that like they don't care what you're doing. Like, let's be serious.
So true.
So true. Yeah. So little by little, I would start to kind of like plant seeds or say basic things about what I was doing or what I was learning about, or inviting people to do things. Like, for example, there's a collaborative space that does, Reiki and group events and stuff near me. And so we like organized a girls, like, let's all get our auras read. And it was kind of like a gateway introduction to be like, hey, let's check out the spiritual stuff. And then like, let me see who resonates with this and let me see who doesn't. So it was kind of just feeling out like who's going to be into this and ask questions and be curious and who's not. And that kind of helped me feel out, okay, like who can I kind of open up to more about these things and who can I not? And I learned that actually people were more interested than I thought they would be. And if they weren't interested, no one was like, oh, that's so weird. It was just kind of like, oh, okay. And they would move on.
Yeah.
So that helped me feel like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't as scary as I felt like it was to open up.
And I love that you're sharing that, because I think it's everyone's biggest fear. It's just someone's going to hear me say something spiritual and think, I'm not a big fan. Every time someone says, oh, that's woo woo, like I just cringe, because it's like othering, of like, it's putting it in this category. And I don't know, it like really bothers me. Like we're not mainstream and you're like over here on the side in, left field kind of thing. And I just, for some reason, the woo-woo thing does not resonate with me. I don't like using it to describe anything or a concept. So you will not hear me using that unless it's to like, have an opinion about it. But yeah. So anyway, continue. So I love where this is going.
Yeah. So I, at work especially, I was very cautious about it because I was starting to get to a point where I was offering sound baths on the weekend, and I was feeling nervous about, like, well, is my boss going to assume that like I'm going to be leaving from here to go do this? So I was, for that reason, very cautious about kind of bridging the gap there too. But I realized, you know what? This is a part of who I am. So I'm going to start to like ease this in. And I realized that once I opened up about the things I was doing with my boss and explained what I was doing, I felt so much better about it, because then I didn't feel like I had to like hide this other piece of me and these things that I'm doing. Because we've worked together for a long time, 10 years. We're really close as a team. And it felt so much better to just kind of put it out there and be like, this is what I'm doing. And hey, by the way, I'm not doing this to leave my job. I'm doing this in addition to, and just like being really open and upfront about it, so that, and I was like, hey, don't fire me when you see me that I'm doing these events on the weekend. So she really appreciated that I did that, because then she's like, well, people are probably going to see on social media that you're hosting these events and stuff. And now, if people start to like gossip or say something, I can speak to what you're doing. So it actually was really helpful for me to kind of open up with my team about the things that I'm doing outside of work, and like, hey, I'm not trying to leave. I'm just, this is an extra thing that I'm doing
Which,
now.
isn't it so interesting? Because no one questions, other than, you see stuff on social, all the other activities people do when we think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously seeing clients and things like that. But I mean, people have hobbies. They go to markets and fairs to sell things. And I don't think they're ever like, oh my gosh, I can't post anything on my social because someone might see me. Isn't it so interesting that though, with this, when you step into healing abilities and these types of things that we have, it's so interesting what fear comes along with that. I don't know, Natalie.
But I can't tell you, like the first event that I hosted, like posting something on social media, I can't tell you how scared I felt to
I remember your first post, and I remember I was like, yay. I'm so excited. And I think I texted you and I was like, you did it. And you're like, it was so scary.
Like, I feel so outed right now. Yeah.
It's so funny too, because wait, like we generally, people overshare so much on social media anyway. But
Yeah.
that particular thing, I had the exact same feeling the first time I went live on Instagram. I don't know if I've ever been that scared before in my entire life.
It's wild. Yeah.
So but then people are fine to post themselves drunk, doing crazy stuff, taking drugs, not even thinking like, oh, my employer might see this, might see me like in absolute debauchery over the weekend, but it's okay because that's, that's acceptable. Like it's a socially accepted thing to do. And yet, yes, sharing some of this might feel like, oh, Kendra's woo-woo. Like, ooh, what does that mean? What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, I've totally embraced that I am the woo-woo teammate, and I'm okay with it.
We have to give you a better name.
I know.
Kendra, does that mean then, though, that you're also this kind of beacon at work? Have you had people come up to you asking you questions and wanting to talk to you about stuff that you were like not expecting at all?
Yeah, so actually it's funny. One of the people that I work with, once I started talking about these things a little bit, like at the lunch table, he was like, oh, my girlfriend is a Reiki practitioner and she is like a spiritual business coach. And I would have never known that had I not opened up and started talking about this stuff. So that was cool. And now I'm friends with her and I'm like, I would have never made that connection. But yeah, as people kind of started hearing about some of the things that I do, like they were like, you should do like a sound bath here at work as like a relaxation thing that we can offer employees. So actually a couple months ago I offered a sound bath at work.
Wow.
And it was
amazing.
we were doing like an auction to raise money for our foundation. And I was like, you know what? Again, another moment where I was like, some people know what I do here, but not everyone knows
gonna know now.
So I put it out there. I offered a sound bath and people were able to buy tickets. I hosted it at work during the lunchtime where people could come and just relax. Everyone who came was like, I've never done this before. I have no idea what this is, but I figured I'd check it out. And they loved it. And they're like, oh my gosh, you should do this more often. And I'm like, what was I so scared about?
Yeah. I love that so much. It's like when people bring yoga into the workplace or all these things where it became such a thing from a wellness. Yeah, meditation, all these practices, puppies now. People bring like puppies for like, neural, whatever that is. I don't know what the word is, but
like a support
calming. Dog. Yeah. It's supposed to be, joy. It brings so much joy and happiness, but also it's like a, for your central nervous system. That's what I was trying to say. Like for calming and relaxing, because you're literally just like petting puppies, and it's like, who doesn't love puppies? So like maybe this is the next generation.
Totally. I think these things are becoming so much more commonplace in the workplace now, which is awesome to see. We have someone come and do massage treatments once a month, chair massages. Someone comes and does yoga once a month. So I'm like, okay, this is like a very male dominated engineering company. This is not like a cool startup where it's like young people are into
trying
like
to bring in the new things, new age.
So like if we could do this here, this is becoming more popular
more mainstream.
Too. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's been fun to see that bridge.
But it's such a great example of, what I want a big part of this podcast to be, of you can have all of these practices that you're using in your life to heal others. I know you do stuff on your kids, talk about when they're getting sick, and you can, use Reiki or sound healing to help them to feel better and recover, and it works. Versus having to put them on all this medicine. And it's just, you've embraced all of that for yourself. And now it's kind of, spidering out to other areas of your life. And I think the biggest point is just that you don't feel like you have to hide who you are, which this is a part of you. Just like I said, hobbies and other things that people are into. It just happens to be something that society has this lens that it's strange for whatever reason, which is kind of odd because it's been around for millennia, well before anything else that we've learned here. But go figure.
Well, not even just the spiritual part, but I feel like as a part of my energy practice, a lot of things in my life have shifted. For example, I don't drink anymore, and I haven't for a couple of years now. And I feel like there was a time in my life where that was kind of a big part of, I don't want to say my identity because that sounds horrible, but it was a big part of what I would do with my friends. And, we would go out and we would go to bars and get drinks, and that has changed now. I don't do those things. And that was also like part of that transition of like, okay, I'm now navigating a different way of being or showing up with the people that I interact with. And that's an adjustment for them and for me.
But you also attract other people that are similar.
Yeah.
Because I think, we were similar on that path too, of both not drinking, which I found out actually was causing some health stuff for me. Not that I was even drinking that much at all, during the initial part of the pandemic. But then, I found that it's like something shifts with you, but then all of a sudden your social activities, people are going out for drinks and doing this and that. And, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'd rather stay home and do this meditation.
Right.
I'd rather, once in a while it's fun. Like I'll have a mocktail or something. Then you realize those are all full of like sugar and all kinds of other nonsense. And then you're like, I really don't need that to feel good. I just want some like good water and let's just chat about, aliens or something. And, that's like so much more fun than going out and buying $20, mocktails. So
it's true.
It's just really, it's so interesting how we've shifted. All right. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, I want to hear what are a couple of daily practices that you do that are really practical. And one thing I'm going to credit you with that I saw in one of your videos and I've done ever since, and you probably know what the answer is the solar water, which
I was going to say it's a water.
Which is, you're all about water, all the water things. Yeah. But it just was like one of those easy things. I remember you made a video and you showed this bottle that you put water in and literally just let the sun shine on it. And it just changes the molecular structure. And I remember you were so convincing where you're like, taste it and it's just going to taste different. Yeah. And I started doing it. And then I also put it on the ground. So I get the grounding and the solar water, except for it's very sad. My beautiful blue bottle from Hawaii that I ordered. What's the name of that company? You have the
Blue Love, I think.
Blue Love bottle. Is that what it is?
Blue
Oh my gosh.
Bottle,
the bottles are stunning. They're handmade, hand blown. They have gorgeous like Merkabas or dolphins or Metatron's cube and all these stunning designs on them. And unfortunately it got cold one night and I had it on the ground.
And it broke.
It shattered.
That happened to me too.
It did? And it was so sad. And I saw it one day and I was like, my water. And I went out there to pick it up and like the whole bottom fell out and then it just crumbled. And so it's actually still sitting there because I said to my husband, don't move it. I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to do some kind of, I've never done a mosaic in my life, but I'm going to do something because the bottle was just beautiful. And I'm heartbroken, but...
So I do make solar water because of that, because my bottle also broke. I only do it now in like the fall, summer, and spring.
I learned.
I don't do it in the winter anymore, sadly, because I learned the hard way that if it freezes, it will bust your bottle.
Did that just happen to you this winter? Because that's what happened to me. Like
last
in late
winter.
Fall.
I should have told you because I know you bought that bottle.
Yeah.
So I actually do 2 liters of water in glass jugs with a cork top that I leave out on the grass all day, all night. Actually, I leave it out at night as well and get it the next morning. And actually, it was Natalie. I think, Natalie, you had mentioned how you thought to put it on the grass one day and how you could really taste the difference in the water of how like the vibration of the grass like was just such a beautiful...
Oh, I think I'm remembering that conversation too. So it was you. See?
Yeah. So I love that we're talking about this right now because Natalie,
we all contributed to our water practice.
Yeah, we co-created that.
Yes,
we did.
Cool.
So I'm not doing that right now, unfortunately, because it's too cold. But some other practices, I am very focused on a daily basis on keeping my own energy cleansed and cleared. I think because I do a lot of energy work with other people, I find it really important to maintain my own energy. So I do a lot of things that probably sound really basic, but to me, it's turning the ordinary into a sacred moment. Mm-hmm. So just even things like when I'm in the shower, I'll say something like, sacred water, please assist me in cleansing my energy, help me release anything that no longer belongs to me, that is no longer serving my highest and best good. I wash it away now with ease and grace, sending it back to source with love and light. So I'll just say this little like mantra in the shower and just kind of like do a sweeping motion to sweep my energy off. And that's something anyone can do. Like you don't need special tools or training to do things like that.
And I remember Natalie says you can do that even picturing the water if you're not in the shower and you need to do like a cleanse, right?
Yeah.
You can just imagine.
Yeah. Just a dry bath, just like wiping your energy off and sweeping it off and just like picturing it going back to the earth, with love and light, transmuted to love and light. And then let's see, what else do I do? Just even basic things like you see I'm wearing, everyone makes fun of my headphones, but I'm like, I don't put earphones in my ears anymore. This is wired. I'm not using like Bluetooth headphones anymore. I don't use Bluetooth on my phone unless I need it for something specific, and then I turn it off. I even have like an EMF blocker on my phone. So everything's very much about like shielding my energy. My bracelets are for shielding energy. I have a grounding mat on my bed. I sleep with crystals and snake plants near my bed. So I feel like I've just kind of like created all these little practices that are really simple, but that just kind of help me cleanse and clear my energy throughout the day. I usually do Palo Santo, around my body at the end of each night. I know. I do remember you bed without cleansing my energy.
I do remember you telling me that because I remember you posted a video and I was like, "Oh, how often do you do that?" And you're like, "Every night."
Day.
And I was like, "What?" Like, that seems like a lot of work. And you're like, "It's really not. Like you just light the thing and But to me, I'm watching the video. I'm like, "Gosh, that seems like a lot." But it's like, these little things that we can do things, that really have a big if you miss it, if you don't do it and you get into bed, do you feel off, or you might have like a bad night's sleep or something like that?
Yeah, it's more of like I might realize like, oh, I didn't do it and I have to get out and do it really quick. But I would say just like with dieting, where if you try to do too much too soon, it feels overwhelming and then you just ditch it. I would say the same goes for like your spiritual practices and energy practices. If you try to do too much all at once, it starts to feel like overwhelming and like a chore. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I say just go use your intuition, do what feels right for you in that moment. I don't feel like I have to stick to a strict regimen. I'm just going to go along with what I feel for that day. And it's going to shift over time. And I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I need to be very like prescriptive about it, because otherwise it starts to feel like a chore and not like something I enjoy anymore. So
I love that. That's so true. And for me, for instance, like I can't do the smoke. Like smoke just really, there's something about it that just overwhelms me very quickly. So even if someone's saged a room or used Palo Santo, I struggle almost to breathe. Like it overwhelms me. So that's not a practice I have, but I definitely do kind of wipe everything. Or I, love selenite. So I'll just, as my kids call it, my Harry Potter wand. I just wand myself.
Yes.
I wand them if they're having a bad day, if they have a bad dream. So I love those. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us. And I personally have learned so much in this episode between both of you. And I'm literally going to get off of here and go see if I can find a sound bath somewhere and start trying it out. And I will say I did agree in the summer, there's a group that hosts, they do sound baths in pools. And so I did volunteer. Yeah, I didn't do one because I couldn't make it to everyone that they hosted last year. But in order to commit, because I wanted to experience, I said, I volunteer my pool to host a sound bath. I don't know what will happen because I haven't done one before.
Very cool.
So I need to go experience one. But yeah, so I'm really excited and they said you don't even have to be in the pool on a mat. You can lay by the pool and the water carries the frequency and all of that. So I'm super excited. But obviously it's winter here. So while we're marching towards spring, that's down the path. So I need to find a sound bath, a sound healing, something or other in my area because this is so exciting.
That looks like such a beautiful experience that I haven't done yet either. I would love to facilitate one, but I would also love to experience.
You can come down to my house.
I should.
And you can come facilitate it.
Yeah.
And experience, and then you can come experience one too. And Natalie can fly over.
Well, and just a little plug. That's why sound healing is so effective. We have so much water in our body, and the sound is just resonating through all of that beautiful water in our body.
Our cells.
So, yeah.
Oh, so good. I learned so much. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And tell everyone, we'll certainly put links below, but where they can find you, because I do find that you post really, as I referenced multiple times in the episode, really good, just general daily practices that you can pick up that are not overwhelming. So where can we find you?
Before I say that, I just want to say thank you for having me on and for hosting a podcast like this, because I feel like early on it can feel so like alienating, and you can feel alone when you feel like you're going through this and you're the only one. So I feel like this will be so beneficial for people to feel like it's not just me and I'm not alone, and to kind of help work through that. The whole spiritual journey can be so jarring and very shifting, and I feel like this will be so supportive for people. So thank you for offering.
I receive that with love. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see. You can find me on Instagram. So we have Ascending Hearts Wellness for our center is our Instagram account, and then I have a separate one, intune_energy, for my more personal sound healing account. And then we also have a website, ascendingheartswellness.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We will post all of that so everyone can find you. And if you're in the area anywhere near Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you're passing through, definitely check out all the events there because, they just look beautiful. And I'm committing to come up to one of the events. So I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out into the ether. It's going to happen. So I'm excited and I can't wait.
And even if you don't come to our center, like go to a center. I feel like just having the group experience and being in community with other people and experiencing, healing sessions and group gatherings together with other women, other individuals is just like, it's just really amplifies the experience. So get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good advice. I love it. Good way to end on that note. Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your precious day to listen to our podcast. If this episode resonated with you, we would love for you to share it with someone you love. That would mean the world to us. Also, if you feel called, please follow our show so you will know when a new episode drops. If you want to go one step further, you can even rate this episode as it allows our podcast to find its way to others. Lastly, we've done our best to share resources that you might find helpful in the show notes, whether that's a book recommendation or a website we referenced during the episode, a free resource, or more information on a guest who took their time to speak with us and share their knowledge. We would love for you to support their work too. You can find more information on our podcast website at becomingspiritual.me. We love you and can't wait for you to hear the next episode. Until then, know you have a place where you are welcome and you are loved. Welcome home.